I am the number one attraction, Matt Saxon, and everybody else is just second rate. What's going on, guys? I am the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera, and this is episode 4 of How to Become a Pro Wrestler, and we're talking all about character development. So this is going to be kind of an interesting episode because we're going to take a look back, a travel down the timeline of my gimmicks, how I came up with them, the thought process, and everything else in between. And we'll talk about what works for you if you're interested in becoming a pro wrestler or you're just interested in the subject in general. We'll talk about it, how to develop your character, mic skills, all those good things. But let's first talk about how did I come up with my characters. So, the number one attraction, Matt Saxon. When I first got into wrestling, I started off at a school in New Jersey where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I kind of had an idea when I was younger, and I would go to the park with my friends and be like, oh, we're wrestlers. I always told myself I was number one. That was my gimmick, that I was the best, I was number one, I was super arrogant, all those good things. And I thought to myself, how do I make that into a gimmick? So at the school I started at, there was actually somebody named Antonio Rivera. Now in my head I was like, well, I don't want anyone to think that we're brothers, so we'll scrap my last name Rivera and we'll stick with Matt Saxon. So a lot of people ask me, oh, where the name Saxon come from? It is my middle name. And yeah, that's why I went with it, because somebody already used Rivera. So now I'm thinking in my head, all right, I have Matt Saxon. I like number one. What will flow well with that? The number one attraction, Matt Saxon, was born. When I was 15 years old, I started recording rap music, and a good friend of mine was like, dude, the way you sound is so interesting. It's like you're speaking from the bellows of your belly, from your diaphragm, and it's almost this weird voice, kind of like this. It sounds a little bit, a little raspy, a little intense, and I thought it really worked well for wrestling too. So here is one of my first promos as the number one attraction, Matt Saxon. It's been years since I've seen this, and I'm excited to show you guys. So let's check it out, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Here we go.
Makeup! Makeup!
Excuse me, Matt Saxon.
Antonio, get over here. We gotta start this
Actually,
thing.
I'm from Your Pro Wrestling. Just here to let you know that the red carpet just won the Battle Royale.
Look at that hair.
How'd you get in here?
I just...
Don't worry about it. Is this live right now?
Yes, it is.
Well then, congratulations to the red carpet. My team, my boys, winning the Battle Royale. Taking Your Pro Wrestling by storm. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And let me apologize for not being there. But in red carpet fashion, as you can see, I'm on production for a huge blockbuster movie, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal. But Chapter 2, Your Pro Wrestling, I will be there in person. So get ready. Oh, and I am the number one attraction, Matt Saxon. And if you're not red carpet, you're just second rate. Yo, where's that makeup guy?
Alright, so that was one of my first, well, maybe not one of my first promos as the number one attraction, Matt Saxon, but you kind of get the gist. Super arrogant, almost kind of dumb, you know, and I did whatever it took to win. So I talked about the red carpet. The red carpet was part of a faction that I was in. It was called the Red Carpet, involved maybe 5-6 people, and yeah, they helped me win matches. You know, I would take every shortcut necessary in order to obtain a victory, and that's who the number one attraction was. Super arrogant, super brash, extremely overconfident, but why? For what reason? There was no good reason at all. I had no reason to be that way, but that's why I worked, especially as a heel, as a bad guy. Now, you might get into wrestling and decide, you know, I love the athleticism of it, I just want to start training, I really don't know what I want to do as a gimmick, and that's okay. Something might pop in your head later, or maybe somebody gives you a really good idea while you're at training, like, hey dude, it would be great if you did this. Give this a try. Maybe something will catch on, something will pique your interest. But for me, this kind of arrogant character who really had no reason to be arrogant was ideal. Fast forward to present day. I knew right off the bat, I no longer wanted to use the number one attraction, Matt Saxon gimmick, and I wanted to be the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera. But who is the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera? I know who I was as a cheap wrestler, but as a wrestling gimmick, who was that? Now, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the Extreme Cheapskates episode. You know, do I want to involve protein shakes? Do I want to involve teabag tans? Do I want to involve all those things? But I didn't want it to feel kind of too cheesy or too comical. So I really thought to myself, how am I going to make this happen? Now, here was the very first time I attempted a promo as the Cheap Wrestler. Let's check it out.
So I hear Sean Spears is looking for a new tag team partner. That's probably like how 90% of these promos start off, right? So let's do something a little different. I'm Matt Rivera, cheapest wrestler in the world. It's a virtual handshake, brother. Pleasure to meet you. And you see, I leave people asking one question when I step into the ring. How? How does this guy get so many opportunities? How is he in the top 5 trending videos on YouTube worldwide? Well, the answer is real simple. I'm an opportunist. And if I don't see an opportunity, I create one. I can take trash and turn it into treasure. So, if you're looking for some tag team gold, I can bring it to you. Just like that. I'm Matt Rivera, the cheapest wrestler in the world. And at the end of this, they won't call me cheap anymore. Just champion. Excuse me, I need to get to the glass. Really?
All right, so that was the first time I ever attempted to do a promo in this Cheap Wrestler character. I didn't love the fact that I was even doing it at like a recycling center. Not because there's anything wrong with them, I use them all the time, but there was something that I just felt was like, I'm gonna use the word cheesy again. It just seemed too gimmicky, too charactery for me. Now, you guys really let me know what you wanted. Because what ended up happening, and I was surprised by this, you guys were such huge fans of the number one attraction gimmick. So then I started thinking to myself, well, what if I am the cheapest wrestler in the world, but had the attitude of the number one attraction, Matt Saxon? That way, I have the edginess and the seriousness and the arrogance and the brashness of the number one attraction with the cheap wrestler mindset, and kind of just like fuse them together as if they were two Saiyans wanting to become one and have this hybrid character. And that's when things really started cooking for me.
This isn't some reality show comedy sketch. So when I say I'm the cheap wrestler, it's more than a financial statement. It's a winner's mentality. I'll do whatever I have to do in that ring to get the job done. Whatever it takes.
All right, that was just a quick snippet for you guys. But yeah, I was so proud of that video, and I think it really established what I wanted from this character. I didn't want anyone to look at me and be like, oh, he's a goof, he's a joke, he's a clown. No. I want them to be like, ooh, his money is the motivation for what he does. And I started thinking about the villain Two-Face from Batman, how he always has that quarter. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna downgrade it to a penny. A penny represents the show Extreme Cheapskates, and I'm a penny pincher. So thought I would just play with it, almost like a lucky coin, or maybe just some sort of like habit, like a fixation. And these are little things that really honed in this character that people remember. Joel Maximo, he specifically told me, I love that thing that you do with the penny. I love what you do with the penny in the promos. And that's something that I really wanted to keep. So when you're developing your character, start thinking about these things. They might seem so little and so minuscule, but they'll make you stand out. I now have a better understanding of who the cheapest wrestler in the world is, but there were still a few things I wanted to figure out, and time was ticking. Time. A catchphrase. My old catchphrase when I was the number one attraction, Matt Saxon, was simply, I am the number one attraction, Matt Saxon, and everybody else is just second rate. So I like that catchphrase. It worked for me, and I wanted to do something pretty much the same. Just put a little twist on it, make it about the cheap wrestler. So what did I do?
I am the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera.
And it's time to make change.
That's it. That's the catchphrase. It's time to make change, which obviously is a double entendre. You know, I'm making change like making money, and it's obviously the smallest amount of money that I can make, but it also means I'm making change like I'm creating changes within the industry, waves, I'm making a difference. So that double meaning was key. Catchphrase, check. Luckily, I already had an entrance theme, a really dope entrance theme. Hova Beats threw down the instrumental for me, I laid out the vocals, and we came up with one of the coolest entrance themes in independent wrestling. Now, here's some advice I have for independent wrestlers. Create your own original entrance theme. Why? And I just shook the whole thing here. The reason is simple. You don't want copyright issues. You don't want copyright issues later. You know, some wrestlers might use Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, but then you go to put their video on YouTube and copyright. You want your own music, and plus it stands out. It stands out to have your own original music. Maybe back in the early 2000s it wasn't a big deal, but I think now it's important. I know who I am. I have an original entrance theme. I have a catchphrase. What's next? Oh, let me tell you.
But what would I wear?
Now, we all know I don't like to spend money, so I could have easily went with the black tights and red pads, but I just felt like it wasn't enough. So thanks to you guys and all the money that you've donated into this channel, I was able to buy some new tights, and I really wanted to stick with that coin gimmick. So I drew up this idea of a coin, and instead of "In God We Trust," it would say "Time to Make Change," and it would be my face, and we would put it on the outside of my tights, and on the butt area, I decided to almost mimic the TLC logo, but instead put CHEAP, cheap, on my rear end. And that was the new tights. My boy Billy Kushner decided to draw it up, Limp Doodle, and I drew it, but then he drew it way better. And I gave my idea to Bronco, who ended up making some dope tights. Honestly, shout out to Bronco, he killed it. Shout out to Billy Kushner, he killed it. Dope tights, I love them. Who is the cheapest wrestler in the world? Entrance theme, catchphrase, tights, all those good things, and I had to cram all of that in, get it all in within about a month's time before my return match. So now that we've talked about the #1 attraction, Matt Saxon, and transitioning to the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera, I really want to talk to you guys about developing character, mic skills, promos, etc. I think one thing that's really important with professional wrestling characters and gimmicks is conviction. I have to believe that you at least believe you are this character. And conviction is so important. Whatever you say in front of the camera, whatever you say on a microphone, whatever you say in a promo, make it believable. We have to believe, the audience has to believe, hell, the wrestlers have to believe what you're selling. And if you can make that happen, especially the boys in the back, if you can make that happen, then you're doing a good job. When it comes to character development, one question I ask myself is, what would this person do in an everyday situation? What is the Undertaker like when he needs to eat some food? What does he do? Does he go in his refrigerator? Does he order out? Does he go to a restaurant? Does he go to the grocery store? And you might laugh at these things, but what, the Undertaker doesn't go to the grocery store? Okay, but now you understand the Undertaker. Does your character go to the grocery store? Well, what happens when the cheapest wrestler in the world goes out to eat? Maybe I try to dine and dash. Maybe I try to say, oh, you know, there's a hair in my food, and so I don't have to pay for it. You know what I mean? Maybe I order the cheapest thing, the value menu items. These are all things that, it seems funny, but it makes you have a better grasp of who you are. Because really, who are you? When it comes to promos, I always try to make them entertaining. I try to switch up the environment, kind of just do a different recording style. So here's an example of one of my favorite promos I've done as the cheapest wrestler.
Oh, there it goes. Let's get him.
Very TMZ style.
Cheap wrestler, Matt Rivera.
What?
Listen,
What?
is the rumor true that you're going to be debuting for? Is the rumor true?
What?
Are you?
Spit it out. What are you trying to say?
Is the rumor true that you're going to be debuting for Intense Wrestling Alliance?
Yeah, that rumor is absolutely true. I'll be making my debut August 7th. Intense Wrestling Alliance is about to be blessed by this face right here. Save the world, and you know how I feel about saving, right?
Any word on your opponent yet?
No word on my opponent, but doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, I am the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera. And it's time to make change.
Thank you so much, Cheap Wrestler. But one more thing, I heard that you're having a baby.
Yeah.
Any chance we can get the exclusive first take on the name of this baby?
No chance.
Thanks, Cheap Wrestler.
All right, so that's one of my favorite promos that I've done since coming back. Now, and I'm glad we watched this because there's a couple other things you have to remember when you're cutting a promo. The purpose. What is the purpose? You know, I was selling a show. I talked about Intense Wrestling Alliance. I gave the date in there and maybe some other information about the event. I threw my catchphrase in there. You know, I sold myself, but I'm also selling this event. That is so important because if you can't get those things in, if you can't get those things over, what's the point? Like, well, you're just blabbling, you know, blah, 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 for no reason. This was episode 4 of How to Become a Pro Wrestler, and it was all about character development. If you're an aspiring pro wrestler, I hope this episode helped you out. It was kind of cool for me to rehash some of these memories, take a little trip down memory lane from the number 1 attraction to the cheap wrestler, Matt Rivera. On the next and final episode of How to Become a Pro Wrestler, we'll talk all about getting bookings and matches. I am the cheapest wrestler in the world, Matt Rivera. It's time to make change. Peace! You know I've got to give a special shout out to the Frugal Faction. Are you ready for the cheap wrestler to return to the ring? Then you've got to get the latest gear. I've partnered with Redbubble to bring you guys the dopest merch, including a brand new line of Time to Make Change shirts, masks, cell phone cases, backpacks. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And these all come in classic cheap wrestler graphics too. Don't be second rate. Get your merch today. Click that link in the description. Let's go. Penny for your thoughts ain't worth the price. When the rent this high, knock out your lights. Proven in seconds, oozing electric. Smells like glass. School is in session. Saved by the bell, yeah, I'm on fire, blazing in hell. Save your career, rather save on a sale. Stuck by hot bars, making no bail. I cashed in, attraction. Numero uno, action brutal, faction frugal. I'm the your matches doodle.